Hello, this is Father Michael Lampe coming to you with another video reflection. Today is the Solemnity of Pentecost. And what a joyous occasion it is that we celebrate the Holy Spirit coming into the church, coming into the apostles, and really being the birthday of the church. So, happy birthday, church! Being Pentecost, being the time where the Holy Spirit came and we saw that the apostles were strengthened and went out and shared the good news. It's important for us to reflect upon our own time where we received the Holy Spirit in a strengthening and intensifying way. I know when I was confirmed 23 years ago, I wasn't really sure what it was all about or what it meant. I mean, I was a fallen away Catholic, and so I was mostly just kind of doing it because that's what we were doing in school. So that's why, for the most part, I did it back in 8th grade. But I was confused about it, and I was mistakenly told that it was just me declaring to the world that I'm Catholic or reaffirming that I choose to be Catholic. But that's not really what the sacrament is about. We might wonder, okay, well, what is it about then? What is confirmation? Why do we have it? Why is it a sacrament? Well, first I'll start by what it's not. It's not a graduation from the Catholic faith. It's not a time for us to just say, okay, check mark, did all the Catholic things, I'm now going to leave or just not practice anymore. No, that's not what confirmation is about. It's not about the person who receives it saying that I'm confirming my faith. No, that's not what it's about either. Confirmation is about receiving the grace of God with a new infusion of the Holy Spirit such that we become spiritually mature. So we can see how a person can grow physically. They're born, childhood, adolescence, teenage years, adulthood, etc. So there's something similar in the spiritual life, how we grow spiritually. And in order to reach the levels of spiritual maturity, we need the grace of God to be given to us, and we have a sacrament for that, and that's confirmation. So confirmation is the sacrament that provides us with the grace we need for spiritual maturity. And when we receive that grace, we are strengthened by it in order to live out our faith in a way that we weren't able to before. With it, we can become defenders of the faith. With the grace of confirmation, we can share the faith with a strength, with a vigor, with a zeal that we weren't able to prior to that point. All the sacraments make us to be like Christ. And so when it comes to baptism, that's really the entryway into the faith. It's where we receive an abundance of grace. Yes, absolutely. Baptism necessary for salvation. Yep. But in addition to that, we have confirmation and Holy Communion. And these three sacraments make up the sacraments of initiation. If we have all three of these, we become full, complete members of the Catholic Church. We have all the graces necessary to live out the way that Christ has asked us with regards to membership in the church. And being conformed like Christ in this, at baptism, it's kind of like similar to being conformed to Jesus when he's still a little boy, when he's learning, when he's receiving from Mary and Joseph, when he is he's not doing any active ministry. He's not sharing the faith. I mean, he's living a good life, but it's an ordinary life. He's refraining from sin and temptation, but he's not yet proclaiming the truth, proclaiming the good news. He's not yet ministering to others when he is just a little boy. So confirmation would conform us to be more like Christ when he is mature, when he is going out and sharing the good news, when he is proclaiming the truths, when he is enduring persecution. Jesus is at a level of maturity when he undergoes his passion, his death, and his resurrection, when he surrenders to God the Father in the Garden of Gethsemane and says, "Not my will, but your will be done." That's spiritual maturity. And we receive the grace to be like that at confirmation. And Jesus isn't the only one who becomes spiritually mature, of course. He gives that grace at Pentecost to all of his disciples who were present there. And for the rest of us, we receive it through the sacrament of confirmation. And so we see it in the apostles. We see how in the Acts of the Apostles, at the very beginning, they are scared. Like, they're still believing in Jesus. They're still following him, but they're still also locking the door and trying to make sure that nobody really knows what they're doing because they want to protect themselves. But when it comes time for Pentecost, that very same day after they receive the Holy Spirit, they go out and they proclaim the good news. And they undergo ridicule and beatings and imprisonment, and some of them are martyred, and they're still singing God's praises. They're still joyful about this, which to us may seem really weird, but it's because they are so filled with the grace of God, and they have been strengthened so much that all of those things, those difficulties, those challenges aren't nearly as important to them as loving Christ and sharing that love with others. And that's pretty cool. So that's something that all of us should desire and seek after, to have that kind of spiritual maturity. I know when I was confirmed, I didn't have that same kind of like instantaneous reaction. The apostles, as soon as they were confirmed at Pentecost, which we celebrate today, they immediately go out and preach the good news. So they're hiding behind locked doors. They receive the Holy Spirit. Now they go out and they're sharing this information. They're proclaiming Christ to the very people they're hiding from because they've been so strengthened. There's a radical change. We see it right away. But in my case, when I was confirmed, it didn't really seem all that different. I seemed to be the same before and after, at least from my own perspective. But again, at that time, I was a fallen away Catholic, and I didn't really understand what confirmation was about, and I wasn't really all that interested. I had other things on my mind. And because of that, I wasn't very well disposed. I wasn't very well open to receiving that grace. And so when we look at the apostles and what happened with them, we know that they were eager. We know that they were zealous. We know that they were praying for the coming of the Holy Spirit. In fact, the very first novena started after the Ascension, 9 days between Ascension Thursday and Pentecost Sunday. Each one of those days, very first novena, the apostles are praying for the coming of the Holy Spirit. They are eagerly awaiting and desiring the Holy Spirit to enter into their lives, enter into their hearts, so that they can have the grace to be strengthened, as Jesus told them he would give them the Paraclete, the Holy Spirit, and that the Holy Spirit would strengthen them and embolden them and help them to live out the vocation that God called them to. So they had an immediate and a miraculous effect, but not in my case, because I, on the other hand, was not very well disposed. Now, later in life, in college, when I came back to the Catholic faith and I learned more about the faith and I learned more about confirmation and what happened for the apostles, I honestly felt a little bit like I was gypped. Like, well, what about the grace for me? Like, why don't I see that effect for myself? And I've already been confirmed. My soul has already gotten a seal on it, just like at baptism. So I can't be confirmed again. What does that mean? Does that mean I miss out? Do I not get the grace because I wasn't ready for it, because I wasn't prepared, because I wasn't well disposed? Thankfully, that wasn't the case. It's much more like when you get a package. For some people, they open it right away. For others, maybe they just kind of set it aside. So if the graces of confirmation were likened to a package, it would be as if I received that package and just kind of set it aside, or maybe put it into storage and then just forgot I even had it for a while. But the package is still mine. It's still available if I'm willing to make use of it, if I'm willing to find it again where I lost it in my storage and open it up. And so that is certainly something that, in a spiritual sense, that I have done since then. Receiving these graces, utilizing these graces of the Holy Spirit received at confirmation. And that may be confusing to us too. Like, okay, it's the sacrament of spiritual maturity, but like, what does all that mean? Well, okay, we saw the apostles there willing to risk their lives to share the good news, but how does that work for us? Like, what's the more practical things? Like, what is in this package of grace from confirmation?